Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hussein Alawi, the organizer of the Arab African Mining Conference, together with our partners Core International, that many of you will know have developed the iMine platform. I would like to start off by offering a warm welcome today to the first in our series of mining webinars that are taking place as a prelude to the Arab African Mining Conference in September. In line with the mission of that conference, these webinars have been established to promote investment into high potential mining countries within Africa and the Middle East, of which Nigeria is of course very well known. And we do hope these valuable sessions will ensure the global mining community is really kept up to date with all the latest developments and opportunities in Arab and African mining during the coronavirus pandemic. Today we're discussing Nigerian mining now and post COVID-19, and it's a great pleasure to welcome today the Honourable Minister of Mines and Steel Development, His Excellency Architect Olamide Adebite, as our keynote speaker. Your Excellency, it was wonderful meeting you in your offices in Abuja in February.
Thank you so much.
And we'd like to extend our sincere thanks and appreciation to you for taking the time to be with us here today. The Honourable Minister is joined on our distinguished panel by the Director General of the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency, Dr. Abdulrazak Garba, who, as many of you know, is the absolute fountain of knowledge of all things Nigerian mining. It's also a great pleasure to welcome Mr. Segun Lawson, who is the CEO of Thor Exploration, which, as many of you will know, is one of the most active mining companies in Nigeria. The session today is going to be moderated by Anthony Benham, the Principal Exploration Geologist at SRK Exploration. We're very grateful to have you with us as well here today, Anthony, and good to see you again. As I mentioned, this webinar and the entire iMine webinar series are acting as a precursor to the 4th edition of the Arab African Mining Conference that is being held online this year as a result of COVID-19 between the 28th and the 30th of September. And of course, we do hope all our panelists and participants will join that conference, which we are certain is going to have participation from at least 15 African and Middle Eastern governments across the 3 days of the event. But in the meantime, I do hope you enjoy today's session, which I, for one, am very excited to learn from. And with that, I'll hand over to Anthony to introduce and to run today's proceedings. Thank you very much.
Hussein, and good afternoon to everyone who is listening virtually on the web. My name is Hussein has said, is Anthony Benham. I work for a company called SRK Exploration Services, which is part of the global SRK group. We're a consulting group comprising roughly 1,400 professional scientists and engineers in around about 43, 44 offices around the world. We've been active in West Africa, but we're also active elsewhere in the world, of course. And we're still working despite the current pandemic conditions. It's my pleasure to moderate this session, and I'd like to thank the organisers for inviting me to do so. Without further ado, I would like to start this event by introducing His Excellency Minister Adebite from the Ministry, and I shall now hand over to the Minister for your 10 minutes of talking about the Nigerian mining now and post COVID-19. Minister, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Good afternoon, everyone, the panelists, and of course, those who are listening to us everywhere. We should thank the organizers. This is very apt in the light of what is happening in the world now, where we cannot gather like we normally do. And of course, this is becoming the new normal, where we can communicate and of course share ideas. So I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me to give this talk, and of course for highlighting mining in Nigeria, especially during this COVID period, and what our plans are post-COVID-19. Thank you so much. Without doubt, the COVID-19 pandemic has affected mining in Nigeria adversely. Mining in Nigeria is essentially, it's in the formal sector for now. We're trying to promote our mining to the world to attract the juniors, the majors to come in through some of the projects that we're carrying out. And I think as the program goes on, you will avail you of some of these projects, especially with Dr. Garba Air. The pandemic has impacted the mining industry in Nigeria, especially because the artisanal miners who form about 85% to 90% of the mining activity in Nigeria currently, of course, could not continue with their activity because of the COVID. There are a lot of restrictions that are placed on the country for protection in terms of restriction of movement, social distancing, I'm asking and all that. But on the flip side, because of the pricing of gold, which kept going up, we had some adverse effect. I'll call it adverse effect because we recorded some increased illegal gold mining and smuggling in the country, which of course constitutes some economic sabotage, which of course we're trying to deal with. We're able to arrest some of this. Of course, this happened because of the price of gold, the movement of gold in the world. This became very attractive, and a few of these illegal miners took the risk and went out there to continue to mine. And of course, we apprehended a lot of these illegal miners in Osun and Zamfara states to curb their activity. But the COVID-19 itself, it's a blessing in disguise for our sector. Nigeria has been known as an oil and gas in the country. And of course, that was a major focus. But in the last 5 years, the current administration of President Muhammadu Buhari had been trying to diversify the economy through mining sector and of course agriculture. But this was slow in coming. But with the advent of this pandemic, of course, it brought out the reality that we needed to fast track efforts in this field because there were a lot of things that were outlined but then stretched out. But with the pandemic, we lost a lot of revenue that we normally generate from oil. Prices of oil fell below $18 at a particular time. Of course, this brought some reality home that we needed to diversify the economy in a faster manner. Now, what is the government doing post-COVID to make sure that we are strategically positioned? Just yesterday, the government of Nigeria approved a package of 2.3 trillion naira as a boost to the economy post-COVID. It's a 12-month program. Apart from the original budget, 2.2 trillion naira is being injected into the economy to avoid, of course, the consequence that will have otherwise occurred to our economy because of this pandemic. And of course, the mining sector is getting a large chunk of this money. There are a lot of programs for youth engagement to make sure that we create employment in the value chain of the mining activity itself. Before the advent of the pandemic, before it set in, we had already organized what we call a downstream sector of the economy. Nigeria essentially exported raw ore prior to this. What was mined was exported in that raw form. We were in the process of creating a value chain addition so that there is some processing locally before we export whatever we realized. This is being fast-tracked. We are creating clusters around the mining activity. These are processing centers where the government will come in and provide the infrastructure that's required. we are providing a road network. Our rail line, of course, is coming in. And at the same time, we are providing power through gas. The gas pipelines are being extended so that these clusters, processing centers are created around the mining activities all over the country. Essentially, what this is doing is to make sure we create value, whatever you mine. But this is not for government to do. Government is just an enabler in this case. We're providing infrastructures. We want investors to come in and provide these processing facility for people, whether it's tin smelting, whether it's in gold refinery and stuff like that. These are some of the effects that the government is preparing to cushion the effects of COVID-19 of course, post-COVID-19 itself. And that's why the government is providing that much money into the economy, pushing that much money into the sector. Of course, strategic minerals that have been, of course, recognized. There are 7 of them, basically. You have coal, iron ore, bitumen, gold, limestone, lead, zinc, and barite. These 7 minerals were earlier identified as strategic to the economy of the country. And we're focusing on this going forward. One of those is to generate more revenue for government. And this comes in because we're going to do import substitution in this. And that's part of the processing I mentioned. If you take bitumen, for instance, Nigeria is doing a lot of infrastructural projects. And there are established reserves, which some proven reserves, and of course, some probable reserves as well. In areas that have been identified in Nigeria, we're looking for investors to come in. Government is providing all the right incentives for investors to come in on this bitumen aspect. Currently, Nigerian imports all the bitumen requirements into Nigeria. And of course, if you're able to develop this and process for asphalt production, for road construction, this will save government a lot of revenue that would, of course, have gone out. And at the same time, also create jobs, which is the mandate post-COVID. The government is trying to manage the fallout of post-COVID pandemic. Where we also, I think Dr. Garba will talk more about this, because we know that mining in Nigeria cannot be taken seriously until we have more people like Tor Exploration. Shegun is here, we'll talk more about that. They've braved the odds, they've come in, and of course, it's one of our success stories. We're trying to attract more of such, because it's only when we have these majors and of course some of these juniors coming to Nigeria that we can begin to classify ourselves as a successful mining destination. Towards this end, of course, we have the NIMEP project. The NIMEP project is a national integrated mineral exploration project, which is targeting some minerals. Dr. Garba will talk more about this. The results have been encouraging. We've been taking this on our road show to attract investors into Nigeria, to say that, look, these are some of probable reserves that we can do further exploration on, and of course, begin to exploit in Nigeria. So this is one of the activities we are doing post-COVID. We're also be going into a second phase of NIMEP to do further exploration and to attract the investors. Government is also creating an enabling environment for investors to come in. Some of these fiscal regime include customs and import duty waiver for will-be miners. Any equipment or machinery that's imported for mining will have, of course, customs and duty waiver in Nigeria. There's tax holiday. We'll call it for miners that are coming in pioneer status. There's a tax holiday of 3 to 5 years. 3 years in the first instance, extendable to 5 years, where there's tax holiday. There's transferability of capital and permission to retain and foreign exchange for usage. Also, there's capital allowances up to about 95% for qualifying capital expenditure. That is, of course, is made by these investors. Shegun will probably be able to talk more about, on that. Also, we are allowing 100% ownership of mineral properties. So if you come into Nigeria, whatever you set up, government will allow 100% ownership of this. Security of tenure is assured. We've gone very transparent on our cadastral system. Something that everybody from anywhere you are in the world, you can access. And of course, our mineral administration policy is very open and transparent and can be seen online through the cadastral system. So these are some, I'm being very conscious of time. These are some of the measures we are putting in place. Of course, they were already in the pipeline, but now we are accelerating and fast tracking this to attract the majors, the juniors into Nigerian mining sector, and then we can now claim to be a mining destination in the world. I will stop here now, and of course, I'll be willing to expatiate further on some of these and other salient policies that I've not been able to mention. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister, for a very passionate and eloquent introduction to the potential and the efforts that Nigeria is placing to attract people to come into the country and take an active look at the potential mineral resources. Without further ado, I'd like to now move over to our next talk in this session, Dr. Garba from the NGSA. Dr. Garba, if you can expand perhaps on some of the comments that the Minister has raised, and in particular, I'm looking at hearing more about the NIMAP project and when the data for that might be available. Dr. Garba, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone, the Honourable Minister. Thank you for the opportunity to be on this platform to elucidate some of the activities we have been doing in the sector in recent time. A lot of geological activities have been happening in Nigeria, and all the efforts is to attract the right investment into the country. Even at the local level, we have been looking at the local minerals we have, like industrial minerals, and we have been developing this to ensure that we use this to substitute for imports, things like kaolin, bentonite, and so on and so forth. On the NIMAP project, which stands for National Integrated Mineral Exploration Project, it is an effort, a conscious effort by federal government of Nigeria to carry out integrated exploration on some mineral we have in the country or some minerals we have along their metallurgy. And the objective of this is to generate geoscience information in greenfield and brownfield setting, to generate geoscience information using modern integrated exploration technologies. The aim is to spur the desired investment into the sector, generate foreign exchange, and substitute for imports. Now, the NIMAP project, if you will recollect, started about 2 years ago with some hiccups here and there, but eventually it garnered steam in 2019. And the scope of activities of the project is one, to carry out maybe remote sensing, processing of existing air, or using normal exploration methodology, geological mapping, evaluation, and so on and so forth, drilling, then integration of the data set, that is the result of analysis we go from through trenching, pitting, and so on and so forth. So far, the project has progressed. It is a 5-stage project that we have designed, and it has progressed systematically into the last stage, that is stage 4, which has to do with copious drilling on established targets and then analysis. And it is envisaged that at the end of the project, the deliverables are the reports detailing the work carried out, methodology, assumptions, limitations, and findings, then identify targets and permissible tracks of mineralization which we have found. Then we expect the report to give us geological constraint controlling the mineralization in this setting so that we'll be able to use that to further or advance on the exploration. then ore deposit models, and then we look at, we have a peer-reviewed exploration report of each block detailing possible resource with verifiable data and backup assertion. And finally, a competent person report showing the methodology used and all the findings that were made. So far on the project, I forgot to mention that this project itself, there are 5 in nature. That is, we are looking at the different metallurgies we have in Nigeria. That is on the southwestern part where we have the schist belt and it's known for gold mineralization. Then we are looking at the north central, northeast, southwest trending pegmatite belt of Nigeria, where you have things like tantalum, niobium, lithium mineralization. Then the Benue Trough, also where you have mineralization such as lead, zinc, silver, and barite mineralization, and the pockets of iron ore in different settings we have, that is the sedimentary iron ore and the banded iron formation which we have in Nigeria. A synopsis of the findings so far is that, like in the schist belt, we have even new findings, that is anomalous results for platinum group elements and nickel, chromium, cobalt mineralization. And even we are beginning to see mineralization of iron oxide, copper, gold type mineralization in Nigeria in some areas. In the second part, that is on the pegmatite mineralization, we have anomalous lepidolite, spodumene, tantalite, and some gemstone in different parts of the country. Then within the Benue Trough, we have what we call the MVT type lead zinc mineralization, and also we have copper mineralization associated with barite. In the barite terrain, 17 new ore bodies have been identified, but currently the companies are doing drilling. That is on the stage 4. They are doing drilling to know how the mineralization extends below. Then on the iron ore, 7 out of 11 prospects identified have been, the geophysical, ground geophysical survey has been carried out there, and some drilling also have been carried out. On a final note on that, we have the results as shown that we have new areas of anomalous mineralization. If you take, for instance, on the schist belt, where we have gold, where we have been doing drilling in recent times, we have a track of mineralization extending for about 7 kilometers. And what we have done is we took maybe 500 meters by 500 meters out of these areas, and we carried out some drilling at 50 meters spacing. Currently, we have got very good intersection with grades of gold ranging from between 1 grams per ton to 4 grams per ton within the shear zone. And some of these extend for about 7 meters. That is breaking in between, you see this gold mineralization, and maybe for a weight of about 500 meters. This is quite encouraging. Within the Benue Trough also, we have intersection of high-grade lead zinc mineralization with anomalous or high concentration of silver. The intersection goes for about 10 meters of veins of lead mineralization, and these are also very encouraging findings we have found on the Nime project. And to buttress our point, what we are saying is that in recent times, as a result of these activities in Nime, we have an increase in imports of exploration equipment, like redrilling rigs. Within this short span, about 3 drilling rigs have come into the country, which suggests that a lot of the exploration in Nigeria and interest in Nigeria is on the upside. So it is expected that at the end of the project, we will have been able to identify tracts of mineralization. Whether the areas are open or not is a different kettle of fish. But our proposal is that if we identify areas or tracts of mineralization, we are able to prove that the mineralization is enough to warrant big-time companies to come into it. If it is open, fine, it will be available for bidding by interested investors. Where it is not open and the owners of the licenses, government will encourage or broker a relationship between interested parties to ensure that this is advanced. The objective of this is to ensure that the mining sector develop, and the objective of government is achieved in creating employment and generating revenue from mining sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Garber. The project certainly sounds as if it's going to generate an awful lot of data, and I'm already thinking some questions that I'd like to ask you a little bit later, if that's okay.
Okay.
But, we'll save the Q&A session until the end, till the last speaker is finished. And I'd like to now hand over to that speaker, Mr. Shagun Lawson, who is the CEO and President of Thor Exploration, one of the most active companies involved in the exploration business within Nigeria. And I await your talk with interest, Mr. Lawson. After you, please.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Thank you, Honourable Minister. Very nice to see you as always. Thank you, Dr. Garber, as well, for that. I was asked to talk briefly on our experience, the impact of COVID, how we've managed to sustain the impact and work through it. I've actually done a few short slides. I don't know if I'm able to share my screen. If not, I will just talk without sharing my screen. Okay, I can share it. Okay. As most people know, our project is in Osun State. We've been through a number of exploration phases and feasibility stages over the last 3.5 years, and we finished our bankable feasibility study last year. Subsequent to that, we signed our EPC contract with Norinco, and we kicked off the real work this year. We started the site clearance and the pre-construction work in February, and we had our stone laying ceremony where the Honourable Minister was there to lay the first stone in March. Needless to say, in late March, then we really started feeling the effects of COVID. Osun State was the first state to lock down. Subsequent to that, there was, as everybody's aware, there's been an international travel ban in Nigeria. And then, after the international travel ban, then there were restrictions on interstate travel. So we had a number of work streams we had to lay out to overcome these issues. The key being the stakeholder engagement with the Ministry of Mines. We have a very good relationship, an ongoing fluid relationship with the Ministry of Mines, where we're discussing our duty waivers and our customs waivers. This flowed through to the Ministry of Finance. With the restrictions in place in state, we needed to liaise and cooperate with the state governments as well. Also, we have, within our license, there are 3 villages around us. We have a duty of care in terms of local community development agreements as well. After all those, the two other outstanding issues, were we able to continue with project construction, and will we be able to successfully procure our equipment internationally? First and foremost, we have our EPC contractor from China, which had meant that the flip side of this COVID response was that they were ahead of the rest of the world with dealing with COVID. So we were less surprised than a lot of people.
It's not showing you as a panelist.
We were less surprised than we would have been if we didn't have a Chinese partner. So they got to Nigeria in early February with their key personnel and key materials. And we started getting prepared for COVID should it get to Nigeria a lot earlier. These issues that we got in place were, PPE, having our COVID handbook, temperature checking, a lot of signage, hand washing, social distancing. We put these measures in place very early. And we recognized that having this project where it was located with the 3 villages around us, we had a duty of care to the surrounding villages as well. So what did we do? We had actions within Osun State first and foremost. We had discussions with the as well. We immediately liaised with Osun State, with the governor, with the Ministry of Health on the best way forward as well. And we came up with 3 key areas which we looked to focus on. First was sensitization, which really meant we had to ensure that the surrounding villages understood the impact of COVID and the transmissibility of it. We printed there was a lot of signage. We printed the signs in English, in Yoruba, put them in all the villages. We held sessions as well. Capacity building as well. We started supplying things like hand sanitizer, masks, PPE. And then lastly, we provided a lot of relief for the economically vulnerable. So food supplies for the vulnerable families as well. The other thing we did outside these 3 key items was we had to see where the nearest accredited lab was. There is one in Osun, the Africa Center of Excellence for Genomics and Infectious Diseases. And we made a donation there, and that donation went towards the importation of test kits, so that, you know, if people within the vicinity of our project got infected, we were able to send them for testing, and then we would be able to quickly be able to assess the impact of COVID within the villages. And this also applied to our work. So we donated masks, sanitizers, thermometers, cleaning agents, and food. And that was, here are some of the pictures we funded through our community development agreement and some of the donations we made. That was our response to COVID. You can see some of the signage here as well in English and Yoruba. Then the question became, are we able to progress with construction in a safe manner for our employees and for our stakeholders? We called an emergency board meeting, and we had to exhaustively weigh all the options. We all agreed that with all the right measures in place, we could safely move forward, and we continue to keep monitoring these measures. So I'm pleased to say, you know, progress, this is looking at the construction site. I mean, the Honorable Minister was just here in March. There has been a lot of progress. We've on the site with the civil works, with the plant site. Progress has been going on. We still keep our COVID practices in place. We've managed to successfully clear all the land. We've managed to start putting up the buildings. We've managed to increase from just a day shift to a day shift and a night shift. For example, we've as well as all the buildings and the civil works, we've also been now been building the water dam, for example, and that's in progress as well. You can see some of the structures are actually going up at the moment. We're still on track as we were without COVID as well. There's still very good progress with the water dam. We expect to finish that before the real heavy rainy season. The rains have started, and we've started getting some equipment into place as well. The real impact of COVID, we believe, because we've successfully managed to get through this initial phase and we've successfully managed to start procuring our long lead items, we believe the real impact will come when the items start being delivered to Nigeria. And we expect these items start coming in. These are the long lead items, so the mills, the crushers, the gensets, and we expect these items to start coming in late Q3, early Q4 this year. And up until that point, we're working hand in hand with the ministry. We've had a number of interactive sessions like this on Zoom with the MinDiver team, with the Ministry of Mines, with the state government as well, to try and get the various waivers in place with our logistics partner to ensure a smooth entry into Nigeria of all the equipment. With all this being said, we managed to get through the first 100 days of construction, no lost time injuries, no incidents of COVID. I think we're now at about 150 days of construction, and the same has been going on. We hope very much that we can continue this smooth operation as we go through. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much, Segun, for that. I'm just going to see if, great, okay. Yeah, very, very interesting to see how well you've been adapting to the COVID situation, and actually quite reassuring to hear how well advanced you are with the procurement of the larger items that you're expecting to arrive later on this year. Very interesting, thank you for that. So we're now opening up to the Q&A session. Thank you to all of the speakers from this event. We have had some questions come in whilst everyone has been talking. So if I may, I'd like to kick off with the first question, which is for His Excellency the Minister. And if I would like to, I'll just read out this question and then give you some time to consider your answer. So the question is, Your Excellency, thank you for providing insights on Nigerian mining activities. At the moment, there are lots of illegal mining activities spread across different remote areas, often being carried out by some Asian nationals. What's the government doing in this regards? And how would villagers know or determine the legality of companies who are engaging in mining activities within their area? Are any of the local governments playing any roles in these regards? That's for the Minister. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Anthony. To answer that, really, there is something the mining have. Nobody can carry out any activity in your area without your consent. Before we grant license to any legal miner, you must have what we call community consent agreement. So such local people will have known the intention of whoever is coming there, because it will seek their consent to the fact that it wants to do mining in that area. The ministry, of course, serves as an arbiter in this case. We come in, we explain to the locals what's going to happen and what they can benefit therefrom. So once this process did not come in the first place, you know that these are illegal miners. You just have somebody come into your neighborhood one night or during the day and they start digging the ground. These are illegal miners. Mining proper, that's done the legal way, of course, will have that as precedent. You know, the agreements, you will be intimated about what is going to happen. That is it. But as per government, what we're trying to do against these illegal miners, we've set up a surveillance task force because Nigeria has vast areas that are remote and, of course, heavy vegetation and all that in the forest. So where some of these people are hiding to do the work. But we're up to the task. We have this surveillance task force. And also, we get information from the locals as well. Once this is reported to us, we move in and, of course, dislodge these illegal miners. Recently, and I think I paraphrased that when I was talking earlier, we arrested some people from Osun State, some from Zamfara, and, of course, very recently, some other people from Cross River State. It's an ongoing thing, and, of course, government is not resting on its oars. We're making sure that as they come, we move against them. But more importantly, as the more of the kind of exploration that we have, the more of the majors, the juniors that we have in Nigeria, proper mining activity. This will engage a lot of these artisanals because the legal people ride on the back of the artisanal miners. When we have proper mining activity in Nigeria, of course, the activity of these illegal people will reduce greatly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And if I may, there's a supplementary question also to yourself, also from one of our listeners in, asking what kind of support the government provides in terms of regulatory policies that would attract technology startups to the mining sector. For example, in the area of high precision aeromagnetic surveys using drones, for example, providing access to the large quantities of data that is required for modern techniques like machine learning or AI. What kind of support is the government offering?
Well, like I think I alluded to some of them. Incentives to attract people to come in. As it were, there's a World Bank project that's, of course, going on within the sector in Nigeria. And already we're doing what we call remote sensing to identify areas where, and of course, in this, there's the use of the drone to identify areas where artisanal minings are taking place, where we have some illegal activity to, of course, arrest such. Nigerian government is willing and, of course, is open to investors, to technology, for people to come in. And that's why we're giving incentives on this, because areas that exist for us is even beyond mining. You have, of course, the equipment side. We have not exploited that. People can come in who can now provide equipment leasing, and that's part of it. Technology. well, I think was why I was in South Africa. I was introduced to some of this AI mining technique and all that. So these are the possibilities exist in Nigeria, and we are open to technology. We are open to investors in equipment, in training. So be assured, and all these incentives, fiscal incentives, also applies to them. Whatever they want to bring in terms of machinery, of course, the ability to, of course, retain their foreign exchange that is hand, the ability to, of course, export their capital or profits is also there. So these are some of the incentives. And Nigeria welcome, we are open to technology and, of course, artificial learning.
Thank you very much, Minister. If I may, I now have some follow-up questions for Dr. Garba, particularly about the NIMAP project that you were talking about. I'm wondering if you could explain a little bit more about the stage that the project is at, when it's due to finish, and more importantly, when the results of that work will be made available and in what format to anybody of interest.
Can I answer that question?
Absolutely, it's for you. Yes.
Because
yeah. Thank you so much. You see, the NIMAP project by design originally was supposed to last for maybe about a year or two, but with the current situation, and also we know that exploration cannot be carried out in a straight line. That you can push. There must be some issues here and there. Hopefully, as we are now, the COVID-19 has significantly affected. Some are just trying to resume on their trenching program. Some are just resuming on their drilling program. But we are looking at it that, barring all circumstances, with the new strategies we have put in place to ensure that work does not stop, before the end of the year, we should start having some reports coming. The company working on the western part of Nigeria, that is within the schist belt, I believe will be able to complete their own work maybe before the end of the year. Company carrying out investigation on barite have significantly completed the drilling, and I think they are expecting the result of analysis. So barring all circumstances, by the end of the year, we should have some reports coming in. In respect of the reports, currently why I don't present some of the findings in slide is that we have not declassified some of the reports. It is still at investigation stage. But the format, it will be available. If you look at it, currently we have what we call a NIMAP website, which is nimap.njsa.ng.gov. On that website and on NGSA website, you can have a review of some of the things that are being done on NIMAP, and you can really assess what is being done. We are continuously updating this website to provide the necessary information for the investors. So hopefully, by the end of the year, there will be, before the end of the year, there will be some significant report drawn out for people to look at. Go ahead.
Thank you. And as a follow-up to that, if I may, you mentioned that the results will be available for viewing, but will prospective investors be able to download that information in digital format for them to use?
Yes, it will be available in digital format and also maybe on in form of flyers to encourage investors, because when we traveled for promotion, we produce some of this information in flyers. So both in digital format and in paper format, it will be available for investors. Inquiries on the website. If you need further information, as long as it is not classified, it will be available to any investors. There have been some inquiries which we have been answering on the website within the limits of our laws. Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to go on to Shagun now with another question. We've had a couple of questions come in regarding the makeup of your company within Nigeria and what percentage of your local staff are local nationals.
Hear you. I can't hear your last question. There's a glitch here.
Sorry, yes, this question is for Shagun from Thor.
Okay.
I'll come back to you in just a second, Dr. Garba, okay?
Thank you very much.
So the question for Shagan from Thor, it was regarding what opportunities might be potentially available for local nationals within your company. What procedures do you have in place for the nationalisation, amongst others, and what are your plans for this with the future of the mine?
Sure. One of the issues with Nigeria being in its infancy in the mining sector, which we're hoping will start kicking off now, is a lot of the skilled positions we've had to get from outside Nigeria. Our mining engineers from Ghana, chief surveyors from Ghana, our chief geologist is from Australia. But what we have found in the non-technical roles, in the skilled non-technical roles, there are some very advanced Nigerians. In fact, the transferability of skills from particularly the oil and gas sector to mining has been incredible. Our lead accountant, our project manager has come from construction and is now leading the project delivery here. Very skilled. He's built a number of factories in Nigeria as well. One key thing we're doing is we have a policy in our company to transfer knowledge throughout the construction period and throughout the life of mine. We have this embedded also in our community development agreements, where we're looking to transfer knowledge, provide scholarships to locals within the area. We're hoping that within between 3 and 5 years, we can transfer all the skilled positions to Nigerians. Everybody's aware of that. It's one of our policies as well. Sorry, I can't remember the second half of your question.
It was regarding the I suppose the opportunities that would be available in the future for your mine once it's operational.
Yeah. So look, we're constantly looking to recruit Nigerians. The entry level hopefully will be at the stage where we're an organization where we can start taking on an annual basis graduate geologists. At the moment, we are taking some on. Currently, we employ about 160 people. We expect that number to go through when we're into full production. We expect that number to be up closer to around about 400. So through that period, we'll be hoping to recruit Nigerians, as many Nigerians as possible, particularly in the skilled areas. And just to add to that, yes, Nigeria is in the early stage of mining, but globally, I've been very surprised and impressed by the incoming CVs we've had from Nigerians in diaspora who are wanting to come home and wanting to work in the mining sector as well. So we're also looking at that as well.
Thank you very much. And I think we've lost at the moment Dr. Garba. I think he's dropped off the call at the moment. I'm sure we'll try and get him back shortly. In the meantime, another question, if I may, to Shagun. As an operational businessman within Nigeria, you rightly mentioned Nigeria is in the infancy of developing its mining industry. But what has been your major challenges and barriers, if you like, to get your business to where it is at the moment? And would you have any recommendations to those out there who are looking to do what you've been doing?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's been a learning experience. Is the company's first. The company has projects in West Africa, all at advanced exploration stage. So going into production, this would be the first for the company. In terms of being a large-scale gold mine, it's also the first for the country. So it's been a learning experience for us, and there hasn't been really a blueprint to follow in the country. And to that effect, we have had to reach out to the ministry for a lot of guidance. I can honestly say, hand on heart, the ministry has been extremely supportive, with the guidance, with the monitoring, and with the support for various waivers that they are in the Mining Act, taking this through to the Ministry of Finance. I think our biggest obstacle to date, and the area of most difficulty to date, and it's very well known in Nigeria, has been the land issues. The land issues we found have been difficult because there are a number of facets. Number one, there's legal title. Number two, you go to federal level, there's mineral title. There's the surface rights, which is owned by the state. And then in Nigeria, like you have in a lot of places in Africa, you do have like ancestral traditional title as well. So tackling that, I don't think anybody has the answers today as to how that can be made very smooth. But what we have found has been communication, collaboration with all the various stakeholders with full transparency has always helped to get us over the obstacles. So we've managed to get to where we are by reaching out to the ministry. The ministry the Honorable Minister will tell you how many times we've had to come and seek his assistance on land issues, and managed to resolve these issues through communication and trying to get everybody around the table.
Thank you very much, Aiken. Okay, I think we've got Dr. Garber back on the call now. So we have another question for Dr. Garber, if you can answer this one. It's relating again to the future of the NIMAP project and the plans for broadening the application process, to enable the application process to occur. I wonder if you could expand a little bit on your plans, what plans Nigeria has to make licenses available for companies who are interested in any of the prospective tracks that your work has identified. Sorry, Dr. Garber, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yeah.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Did you catch my last question, Dr.
Yes, you are asking a question on the future of NIMAP project. Am I right?
Sort of, yeah. It's more to do with what plans the government and NGSA has to for the licensing process going forward in Nigeria. How will companies be able to take out licenses? Will it be an auction process, or is there some other way that you've got in mind?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I mentioned it in brief in my submission that, you see, when we identify the way we are working now, the areas we are working, we have completely blocked those areas with the mining cadastre. If you have a license there, you can renew and so on. But once your license has expired, then we might not be able, and you don't renew, then that license becomes vacant. But you cannot put in new licenses in areas that are open within those blocked areas. So now, once we are able to complete our exercise, areas that are open will be available for bidding, and that bidding system is to be decided by the ministry and government. Okay, we have done that before, but it will be an open and transparent bidding process whereby all companies that are interested can come in. Now, at the NGSA level, if we understood that those tracks, some areas are not open, then if the owners of the licenses are not, or they don't have the financial muscle to take it to the next level, then we will encourage or broker a relationship whereby companies interested in those areas can talk to the owners of these licenses and find a way to move forward. That is our plans on those licenses. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. It certainly goes a long way to answering the question. Yeah, I'm just interested in terms of the way that other companies operate it out. There's a variety of different ways. So some companies have an auction process for specific blocks of licenses that the government can auction. Some of them make it effectively the company can come in and stake the claim over the area that it's
yes, what I'm saying is we are saying the same thing. When I say it is open for bidding, it's through auction system. That is what I mean. That where the area is completely open, no encumbrances here and there, then it will be thrown open for bidding, and that is through auction process.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we're coming up to the end of the session, so we've probably only got time for another one or two quick questions. I suppose another one for Segun, as you seem to be very popular in the question front at the moment. In terms of how have you found the buy-in with the local community? How have you been able to manage expectations regarding the speed of your operation, and what opportunities you can provide. What's been the local reaction? Have people been generally very supportive, or are they expecting perhaps a little bit too much too quickly?
Yeah, when we first went in, you know, it was hard to manage expectations. You think even when you're doing exploration, you have a big rig on site, you're drilling 24 hours a day, you're pulling core out of the ground, it's very visual. People think, don't understand the exploration phase has to lead then through to a development phase, then through to construction, then to production. So that was where we had the hardest time managing expectations. However, we did spend, I think it took about 14 months of meeting frequently, twice a month, putting committees together in every community, developing these committees that had full representation. So they had representation of youth, the women, the elders, the chiefs, to basically voice what the community expected from the company, and vice versa, what the company could provide for the communities. That resulted in us signing community development agreements with all three. The community development agreements are tailored to the progress of the company. So in the exploration phase, the projects which we were doing with the communities were smaller scale, like grading of the roads, fixing up of classrooms. As we ramp up through to the construction phase, the projects increased, and as we go into production, they increased. The second half of your question is, what opportunities do we have for people wanting to join? Our workforce of 160 people, I believe just under 90% are employed locally. We want to continue that trend as much as we can as possible. As the company grows as well, we do hope to be in a position where we can start putting graduate positions in. So Nigerians who have graduated and want to enter the field of mining or geology or mining engineering, we hope to be able to start providing those opportunities for Nigerians as well.
Thank you very much, Segun. And just before we come up to the summing up, I've had one request for a question for the Honourable Minister again. Minister, if you don't mind trying to answer this one. It's to do with the Ajakwata Steel Development project. And I was wondering if you could provide an update on how far have you gone with looking at that particular project, if you're aware of it.
No, thank you, Anthony. Yeah, Ajakwata project is on course. The resuscitation of Ajakwata, government is trying to do that through a government-to-government agreement. So we're in agreement with the Russian government, and that process is on. Of course, it's been slowed down by the COVID because we were supposed to have a technical audit to start in March. And of course, it was a 12-week thing, a 3-month suburb, which is now, of course, delayed. As soon as the COVID pandemic air lockdown is lifted and people are able to fly in, we should have some technical people on ground to do the technical audit. That's at the phase where we are. The technical audit will lead to a bill of engineering measurement and evaluation, which will give us an exact cost, of course, to fix Ajakwata, which of course will take further. I must say that at this point, we have pledged funds from Afrexim Bank and the Russian Export Center. We have a total of about $1.45 billion that has been pledged towards this project. $1 billion from Afrexim Bank and $450 million from the Russian Export Center. But like I said, we need to have this technical audit to know the exact work to be done, which of course will lead to the costs that this will entail. So that is where we are. As soon as we're able to do the technical audit, the job can move faster ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Anthony, sorry, I've also answered about 8 questions online, so people can go there. Yes, some of the questions I've answered, about 8 of them that were directed to me online. So we may not need to repeat them here. But so if you look in the question and answer column, I've answered about 8 of those questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Minister. It's certainly been a very popular session. We've had lots and lots of questions come in throughout the session. So thank you to all of who've contributed questions. And sorry if we haven't been able to ask your question to any of the panelists. We've just been inundated with responses, so it's been extremely popular. So thank you to everyone who's contributed. So we're coming to the close of this session now, and before we end this, I thought it would be an opportunity for a very, very quick opportunity for each of the panelists to sum up in their own thoughts, very briefly and succinctly, why Nigeria? Why should companies, why should investors be taking a serious interest in Nigeria? What's it got to offer? In particular, in this competitive market for exploration that we're in, why should people be taking a closer look at Nigeria as opposed to other countries who may be equally as prospective? I'll just start this off with to the Honourable Minister. You can have a very quick, if you don't mind, summation in your own thoughts, and then I'll hand over to each of the other panelists before we wrap up.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Well, Nigeria is the next frontier. The advantage Nigeria has over some of other mining jurisdictions, because we've had a lot of experience from the oil and gas sector, and a lot of lessons learned there has been brought into mining. So we're doing mining the proper way. We are giving the right incentives to investors. So Nigeria is the place to be going forward. And I'm sure investors would not be disappointed if they come to Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. And if I can ask Dr. Garba, from your knowledge of the of Nigeria, what's your thoughts on why people should come in and take a closer look?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I think Nigeria has the basic geology favorable for all sorts of mineralization we are talking about. Gold mineralization, lead mineralization within our Benue, zinc, silver, and all sorts of minerals, metallic minerals you can think that command play. The battery minerals are coming up to the front stage now. We have nickel, we have cobalt, we have copper in Nigeria. It has been mined, companies are working with it. So what the geological framework of Nigeria provides every leverage for all sorts of minerals, which investors can come into Nigeria. In Nigeria, phosphate in Nigeria, NGC has done some work there. We are seeing very, very fun. We have been discussing with OCP of Morocco, which shows that we have this mineral. Then our mineralization currently is still at the surface, unlike in advanced countries that mining has gone so deep. That's why you have a lot of artisanal miners getting gold, maybe tons or maybe kilograms of gold are being carted out of the country because it is relatively on the surface. We encourage the big timers to come into the country and develop this sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Garba. Some of your translation was broken up, unfortunately, but we definitely got the gist of it, so thank you very much. And finally, if I may pass on to Segun for your comments as a successful mine, or short to be successful mine operator within the country. What you've already let us know about your experiences of working in country, but do you regret your decision? What kind of final comments have you got about coming into the country?
Yeah, I don't regret my decision at all. I think I think my answer will combine what the Honourable Minister said about the enabling environment the Mining Act provides for mining players who come into the country, and what Dr. Garba said. The geological potential in Nigeria is just immense. It's completely underexplored by modern exploration techniques. And I don't think it's possible that Segilola is the only gold deposit out there, for example. It just hasn't been explored. So we've taken a very long-term view on Nigeria. We've acquired more licenses. We intend to grow as a Nigerian company and find more gold deposits, and hopefully maybe one day branch away from gold as well. So combining the Mining Act, combining the potential in Nigeria, I think it's a very strong business case. If you compare Thor with a lot of our peers in West Africa, the quality of this project is right up there. This is a very high-grade project, much higher grade than anything else you find in West Africa, and that's really a testament towards how underexplored the country is. There are more opportunities like this. So for me, I would personally like to see more more players come into the market. I don't think you have to go very far back in time to find a case study like Burkina Faso or Ivory Coast, where just 15 years ago the first mine was built, and they're now champions in the field of gold mining. And I believe the same will happen in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Segun. Yes, undoubtedly there's substantial potential for further deposits to be located within Nigeria, as Dr. Garba and the Minister and yourself have spoken about this afternoon. And let's hope that it's a brighter future for everyone within Nigeria. That brings us to the close of this session. Before everybody goes, I'd just like to again thank the organisers of this conference, but also the speakers, the respected speakers of our webinar this afternoon, starting with His Excellency the Minister, and also Dr. Garba from NGSA, and not of course forgetting Segun Lawson from Thor Explorations. Thank you to all for your attendance, and thank you also to everyone online who has been listening and who's submitting questions. Again, we've been really inundated with the number of questions for everybody, and sorry if we've not been able to get to yours. That concludes this session, but before everybody goes, can I please remind everybody to check your emails for future updates regarding future webinars. There's another one coming up on Guinea within a couple of weeks, and there's other ones coming up as well which may interest some of you listening at the moment. So thank you to everybody, and I hope that you've enjoyed yourselves and learned a little bit more. I certainly have, and it's been very interesting to speak to everybody, and I look forward to my next trip to Nigeria once conditions allow travel to resume internationally in the future. So thank you very much, and goodbye to everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Honourable Minister. Thank you, Dr. Garba. Thank you, everybody.